Recently on this channel, we actually covered a carjacking that happened to the district attorney that covers New Orleans, one of these soft-on-crime, George Soros-backed DAs who doesn't want to prosecute anyone, being victimized by his own policies. Well, now I'm here to tell you guys that Pamela Price actually experienced a similar thing when somebody broke into her vehicle to steal her laptop. But that is just the beginning of this story, because all this is happening amidst a recall campaign that I am hoping beyond all hope is successful against her, because Pamela Price has objectively been a disaster for the city of Oakland, and that's what I want to talk about. We can laugh at the fact that she was victimized by criminals that she seeks to protect, but more importantly, we have to analyze the damage that she's done to the city of Oakland, because despite your intuitions that Oakland was always bad, that actually couldn't be further from the truth. But before we get into that, I want to say thank you to everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
New at 11, multiple sources tell ABC 7 News a work laptop belonging to Alameda County DA Pamela Price was stolen from her vehicle. The car burglary happened around 3 p.m. at the Alameda County Family Justice Center on 27th Street in Oakland. Sources say the DA was told to file a police report online if she didn't want to wait for an officer to arrive.
Now, as I said, it is reported that Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price was victimized by a car burglary. Somebody broke into her vehicle and stole a work laptop, but that is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Pamela Price. Yes, there is some karmatic justice in the fact that she experienced a crime that has been afflicting the residents of the county that she covers, that she doesn't seem to care about. However, what I want to discuss overall is the fact that Oakland, pre the Black Lives Matter riots, was actually turning this whole crime thing around. Here is a local news segment that I actually saw featured on a Nate the Lawyer video, so I gotta give him credit where credit is due for digging this out, that shows that Oakland was actually reversing a dramatic homicide trend that had been sticking with the city for 40 years. Let's get into that segment so you can see how much things had improved before they went to hell.
This is a city that has averaged more than 100 homicides a year for the last 4+ decades. And today, Oakland leaders releasing the annual crime data report, which they say shows a steady 5-year decline in shootings, homicides, and robberies. There were 75 homicides occurring in Oakland last year. That is down from 85 in 2016, and that follows that downward trend. 2016 brought a 12% drop in violent crime versus the 5-year average, and a 20% drop in robbery.
So just a few years ago, the local news was reporting crime in this particular way. They were talking about the declines, the historic declines in homicide and overall violent crime in the city of Oakland. And by the way, if we look at a chart of homicides for that particular city, we can see this trend represented. It is not being made up or anything like that. And the local news actually has a description on why this actually happened.
The police department has credited the improvement on a more prominent police presence and getting help from the community. With better technology, more residents and business owners are giving police video evidence of crime.
So as you can see, based on this chart of Oakland homicides by year, homicides were pretty prominent in the city of Oakland. However, it is undeniable that at least post-2015, we saw a precipitous decline in homicides that extended all the way to 2019. Now, you did have 3 additional homicides in 2019 versus 2018, but we are far off from the around 100 homicides that used to occur in the city each and every year. Now, during 2020, we saw a spike like we saw across the country post the Black Lives Matter riots in homicides. They got up to 97, and then that immediately jumped to 132, and at 2022, we had a slight decline after that dramatic increase to 119, the new normal for the city of Oakland, and that is when Pamela Price came into office. Now, as you heard from the local news segment, what is credited for the crime drop that we saw in Oakland, which, by the way, their homicides were very persistent even beyond the 1990s, where we saw significant crime drops nationwide, was the fact that they increased the number of officers on the beat. They also utilized technology better in order to capture criminals, get them off the streets, enforce the law, and that led to good results in the city of Oakland. Again, for the first time in 4 decades, they saw all of these positive trends. Now, I'm sure gentrification was also a factor, but the thing is, it's not like Oakland got less gentrified post 2020. What happened was there were policy changes. While the increase in police officers, while an increase in police funding led to a crime drop, all of a sudden, they got into the defund the police mindset, and that's exactly what they did. They ended up shaving off $18 million from their police budget. For a city the size of Oakland, that is a significant amount, and that was estimated to cost them about 50 officers. And as we've seen time and time again, what ends up happening when you cut this funding is that you lose those officers. More officers see where the tide is turning, so then they go into early retirement, and even if you restore funding at a later point, you are not able to get those officers back. However, what we're told over and over again is, listen, we actually have these woke Soros district attorneys, and when they're soft on criminals, when they give the criminal whatever they want, all of a sudden the criminals become good people. They're revealed to be the Aladdins that they actually are, and they stop offending at higher rates. However, there was actually a recent news report from last month in October that says that they hit that 100 homicide mark by mid-October of this year, the first year of Pamela Price taking office. And honestly, I was being a little bit generous dating it to when the article was published, which is October 17th, because it turns out they reached that 104 mark on October 9th when 6 people were killed on a single Sunday, bringing the total over 100. Now, by the same time last year, the city had already recorded 105 homicides, and in 2021, it was 110, which just goes to show you that the effects of defunding the police was a complete and total disaster. Now, in 2019, pre the Black Lives Matter riots, the total for the entire year was 78 killings. Now, at the same time, robberies are up 35%. Carjackings are up 22%, motor vehicle theft is up 51%, and burglaries are up 36%. Now, I know a lot of crime deniers want to say, oh, there was no actual defunding of the police or anything of the sort, despite the fact that defund the police was an announced policy, a new budget was signed into law, but get a load of these figures. And remember the dates that I told you about the precipitous decline in crime in Oakland that happened pre the Black Lives Matter riots versus where they decided to peg police funding in terms of right now, because it turns out police funding is as low as it's been since 2014. The Oakland Police Department currently maintains a sworn staffing of 711 officers with a maximum budgeted number of 712 officers. According to the OPOA, this is the lowest budgeted number of police officers Oakland has had since 2014. Now, in terms of the previous homicide chart that I showed you, in 2014, they actually had 80 homicides, which is still higher than it was in the 4 years prior to the Black Lives Matter riots, but under the 100 mark, which seems like, okay, maybe the police should be able to do something even with 2014 numbers of officers, because back then they were able to keep the department with that level of staffed officers functioning enough to reduce homicides to under 100. But the thing is, this doesn't factor in population. If you look at a population map of Oakland, what you can see is that in 2014, they had significantly less people. So you have the same amount of budgeted officers as you did back in 2014, when the population of Oakland was short about 10 to 15,000 residents, according to this population chart. Also, one of the things that you should take note of is the fact that population is on the decline since the Black Lives Matter riots. So even though you have the raw number of homicides inching down slightly post 2021, in reality, that can be completely explained by population drop. And in fact, there's an extremely good chance that there is no drop at all when you factor in that population drop in terms of the per capita homicide rate that they're experiencing. Now look, to be as fair as possible, and I showed you in the numbers, all of this cannot be laid at the feet of one Pamela Price. She is just one point in this machine that is allowing criminals to run wild within the city of Oakland and Alameda County as a whole, but it's not all on her. The defunding the police actually predates her. The Black Lives Matter riots actually predates her. However, taking her off the board is an important step, an important signal in order to tell people we're not about this anymore. We're not doing this ridiculous reform. We're not doing criminal first criminal justice policy. We're doing victim first criminal justice policy. And make no mistake about it, Pamela Price is not only soft on these so-called innocent angels who are just getting arrested for drug possession or stealing food for their family, she is soft on hardcore criminals. We talked about on this channel how she tried to remove a judge from ever hearing a case in Alameda County due to the fact that he refused to approve a plea deal of just 15 years for a triple murderer, a guy who murdered somebody during the course of a carjacking, a guy who murdered somebody for money, and a guy who murdered a state's witness. But there's actually another case that's featured in one of these recall campaigns that I think you need to pay attention to because it will give you a sense of how she sentences hardcore murderers.
Also leading the effort, the family of Jaron Purvis, a man killed in the Castro Valley in 2020. The person charged with his death now out of jail.
Until Pamela Price came into office, he was up on murder charges. Now he's been released on involuntary manslaughter after serving 2.5 years at Santa Rita.
Yeah, that's right. They're out here in force for the recall campaign because a member of their family was killed. That person was arrested pre-Pamela Price, initially charged with murder, spent 2 years in jail awaiting trial, and then all of a sudden, Pamela Price comes in, throws out an involuntary manslaughter charge, and lets the guy out after just the 2 years time served. 2 years time served for killing somebody. So yeah, while it's fun to make fun of Pamela Price for getting her own laptop stolen, in reality, she's doing significant damage to Oakland.
We have people that are still in jail for minor crimes, whereas people that are felons, violent felons, are loose back to our streets.
To me, this is not even a question. If you're in Alameda County, you have to sign the recall petition. You have to get Pamela Price out of office, and you have to start changing the culture back to the way it was in Oakland. So that includes, even after you get rid of her, after you replace her, replacing the politicians that voted for defunding the police. And you better just beg officers to come back and work in your city to get to the point where you were pre-2020, pre-Black Lives Matter riots. And by the way, it is not crazy and it's kind of insane that I get called a fascist, authoritarian, and all the other names in the book for saying that if you want pre-2020 results, you have to go back to pre-2020 policies. Enough with this criminal justice reform. Sure, there are some areas that we can talk about, but until we pull this thing back, until we get crime reduced to the point that it was before, we should not even have the conversation. We should not even engage, because what we found out is that the people on the left, a lot of them are not good faith partners. They're people who don't care about victims, who prop up the criminal over everyone, and the proof in the pudding is in the taste. And unfortunately, we can't even taste it because all of the pudding was stolen out of the grocery stores in Pamela Price's Oakland, because that's what the left actually wants. So yeah, get on board with the recall petition, get Pamela Price out of there. That is our goal. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about what's going down in Alameda County. Till next time.